All right, well, if you're done, let's move on. No, stop, because we're going to go around in circles, and I insist, I'm trying to get as many callers in as possible. It's very difficult, but we're going to take Michael next. Welcome to the show, Michael.
It's good to be here again. It's nice to talk to all of you.
Cut to the chase, Michael. I think that a lot of people want to say a lot of things.
Yes, absolutely. So I'd like Cy and Eric to consider the possibility of or consider the argument that I'm going to put forward now, because I think one of the central claims is that only through acts of God can we have consistency and universality and laws of logic, morality, mathematics, etc. So I actually think that there's another way to prove the existence of universal laws of logic, and that is to consider the non-existence of radical interpreters. So radical interpreters could be people that understand language and logic and science in ways that are completely different from us. So they might be people who think that if I drop a bowling ball, it will rocket into the sky, or that something can both exist and not exist at the same time, or that the number 1 is larger than the number 5. So we understand what a logical interpreter is. Now, if and only if the laws of logic are universal, then are not universal, then we can have radical interpreters. Like, radical interpreters can only exist in the system where laws of logic, mathematics, and science do not exist. Now, we know that we don't actually have radical interpreters. We don't have people who think that bowling balls fly into the sky when we drop them. And so, by deductively, we know that the laws of logic are universal. Now, I'd like to know why that argument is not better than, is substantively better than believing that just God did it. So either Eric or Cy.
Well, we've not heard from Eric for a while, so Eric, do you want to take that first?
Yeah, my simple answer is every time I talk to the atheists, they end up falling back to the atheist position of saying anything can happen. So I would argue you, Michael, probably are one that could say, listen, we have no guarantee that this bowling ball won't rocket up to the sky. It could happen. Now, we're pretty sure it won't, but it could happen. And that's in stark contrast to what the Christian would say is no. We've got a world and a universe governed by God. So here you're making an analogy in an attempt to make, the Christian, I guess, look bad. And in reality, that's exactly what your position is that it's possible there are no laws of logic. It's possible that these things are just made up in our brain. So that gets back to the fundamental thing. Atheists say, I could be wrong about everything. And now here we're talking about all kinds of knowledge claims. The Christian says we do have certainty.
Okay,
does that make sense?
Not really, because I don't think I ever conceded that bowling balls would rocket up into the sky, or even that would be a possibility.
Well,
so I'm not sure who, so if I haven't conceded that, you can't claim that as being
I'm
like
talking
a false
in general.
Okay, sure, that's fair, but let's talk about what I'm saying. So I haven't conceded that yet. So what would your other objections be?
Yeah, could you be wrong about everything you think you know?
Could I be wrong about everything? No, I don't.
You don't have
the question.
Hang on just a second. You don't have all knowledge, I'm assuming, right, Michael?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so out of the knowledge that you don't have, could something out there contradict everything you think you know?
No.
Like the ghost that never lies.
Well, and then I have to ask, okay, if there's something that you cannot be wrong about, name that. Tell me something that you absolutely cannot be wrong about it, and how you know it to be absolutely true. Because you're basically saying, okay, I do have things that cannot be wrong, therefore they are absolutely true. And I'm saying...
Well, before Michael answers that question, Eric, again, I still... it's a matter for the audience to determine, but I still don't think that I've had a satisfactory answer to the question, and other people have put it to Cy. Let me put it to you. How do you know that you, Eric, are in possession of the true position by this revelation, and you are not being manipulated by a matrix?
Again, you don't like our answer. We would say everybody, DPR, you, Michael, Aaron, Concordance, Tony, Thunderfoot, Cy, myself, all of us and everybody in the world has revelation from the one who knows everything, such that we can be certain.
And he says that your God doesn't exist. And he says that there are no true Christians. This is the revealed truth of the ghost that never lies.
Yeah, but I'm talking to somebody who doesn't know if reality exists underfoot, who doesn't, who could be wrong about everything.
No, Eric, I've had this personal revelation.
You've already admitted.
I've had this personal revelation now, and it tells me there are no true Christians. You are not a Christian.
You have already admitted.
One at a time, for God's sake. Eric,
yes, I think I was actually asked a question.
Bringing God into the conversation.
So I was asked a question, which was, is there any piece of knowledge that I could...
Everyone, we'll take Michael first. Let either Eric or Cy respond to Michael's point, then we'll come to you, Aaron.
Okay, yeah, I would like to say Michael was begging the question when he said that we've deduced that logic exists. You need logic to make deduction. So I'm saying
no, not that logic exists.
That logic is valid.
That logic was universal. I only have to have accepted logic for myself in order to make the coherence argument work, the argument of the radical interpreters.
So it's your position that logic can change.
The only necessity is that I accept it, and then I can put forward this argument as an empirical argument. So it's not true that it's begging the question, because you've made the jump from universal to particular, and so that's actually formally invalid.
Well, you're saying that it's an empirical argument now? Are you saying that logic is up to the individual in this scenario? So logic is not universal, so logic can change. Now, my question is, how do you know the difference between different logic and bad logic?
Well, we'd have a difference between, different logic would be bad logic because it is incoherent.
Okay, so logic is universal.
There's a difference between coherence and universal.
Okay, but the thing is, logic is not universal, so there could be logic that applies differently in different places?
Actually, there are many different logical systems.
No, I mean, the law of non-contradiction.
The falsifier that you're giving me is actually not only something that's possible, it's something that exists.
So are you saying that the law of non-contradiction does not necessarily apply?
It is. Here's exactly where the argument is coming down. I'm saying it's coherent.
Let him answer, please.
I'm saying that it's coherent because I believe it, and I think everyone else does too. But I don't make the assertion that because everyone else believes it and I believe it too, that it must be universal and must be objective. There's a difference between what's called intersubjectivity, where everyone agrees, and you've said this earlier today yourself, there's a difference between agreement and objective truth. So I'm saying that actually everyone being in agreement is as close to truth as we can possibly get. And that is what grounds logic and these other scientific and mathematical facts. Because I cannot possibly imagine that 5 is a smaller number than 1.
Okay, I understand that.
That's different than it being absolutely certain.
Right, so you're saying that the law of non-contradiction, because there's a lot of words when I get answers to these questions, but are you saying that the law of non-contradiction does not necessarily apply, or it does necessarily apply? Which one?
I would say that we cannot make claims about necessity.
Right, so it does not necessarily, well, you're saying that you don't know if it necessarily applies?
We can't be certain, no.
You can't be certain? Okay, then you can be.
No.
Yeah, because you're contradicting yourself.
This is Eric's argument here. What fraction of the universe do you have experience of, Cy?
Very little.
I can answer that question.
So in that entire rest of the universe you don't have experience of, is it possible that the law of contradiction does not apply?
No, because God has experience of it. And the thing is, the law of non-contradiction is not...
Right, but you don't.
No, but he reveals some things to us such that we can be certain of them.
Oh, well, yeah, but the ghost that never lies reveals...
Okay, now let's get back to that argument.
And it's hard that the ghost that never lies doesn't...
Let's get back to that argument.
We are not going back to that argument. There is only a few minutes left of the show. We're not going back to that. We'll take Aaron next. No, we'll take Aaron next.
Thank you. So far as I know, the first person that used the argument of gravity on the bowling ball was me, except that I argued opposite of what Eric asserted that I did. In order for the ball to suddenly go sailing into the sky, it would have to violate everything we know about gravity, which means the possibility, if you want to call it that the gravity will suddenly shoot into the sky has not been demonstrated to be possible. It is not possible until demonstrated that it is. Secondly, since the Bible says we all know it exists, that God exists, that's just one more thing the Bible is wrong about, because we do not. That is an assertion of dishonesty. It is not true, and I suspect that on some level you must certainly know that it is not true. And the saddest thing is, when you guys talk about God says things, this is bibliolatry. God doesn't say anything. The men who pretend that gods exist pretend to speak for those gods. Evidence does not presuppose God. The only thing that presupposes God are the guys that do not have evidence.
Eric,
Yeah, nice little.
Eric.
Yeah, nice little rant there. And by the way, saying it loud doesn't make it true. The problem with it is you are somebody who would have to admit that you could be wrong about everything. So every claim you make, including the claims of God does this and doesn't do that and things like that, you have to say you could be wrong.
I did not say that I am wrong about everything. I said you and I are both wrong to degrees. 2 degrees. You and I are both wrong to degrees. Not about everything. There are things that I'm right about and that I can prove that I'm right about. Because some things are not far distant nuances. Some things are simple things. Yes or no answers that we can ascertain for certain. However,
yeah, and the only way to be certain, Aaron,
I'm not wrong about it and you are.
But Aaron, hey Aaron, the only way to be certain, because certainty means
never lies.
Certainty means, hey Aaron, certainty means that it cannot be wrong. The only way you can say you can be certain of it is if you either have all knowledge yourself or are revealed knowledge. And if you now hang on, Aaron,
okay,
if you want to, hey Aaron,
Aaron, let him finish his point. Aaron, let him finish his point. Aaron,
quit setting me up. Let me say the damn sentence. It's not that hard. He's telling me that I have to have all knowledge. I have to know everything about everything before I can say whether 2 + 2 = 5. He says 2 + 2 cannot equal 5. Does he know everything about everything, or is he applying a double standard? I would imply that he does not know anything about practically everything.
Okay, Eric.
All right, and you would have to say, yeah, then you'd have to say the same thing about yourself as well, Aaron. And that's my point, is you didn't let me finish. Hang on, dude, Aaron.
Aaron, please, Aaron.
Do you ever have... It's called a conversation.
Aaron, your point.
Your point is...
People are
hey, Aaron, it's Eric's turn here. Yeah, we got your point several times. You said it very loud. We appreciate that. Now, the point is, Aaron, you, in order to say you have certainty, either have to posit yourself as knowing everything, or, and I know you're not doing that, or posit somebody else knowing everything and telling it to you. Now, Thunderfoot has already said, okay, I'm not going to be an atheist anymore. I'm going to believe in the ghost that never lies as the one.
Eric, that's just wrong. I did not say that.
Did you say he can never lie and he knows everything, so he can't lie? If he knows everything, he's God. And you're abandoned. Does he know everything?
Let me stop you before you start. If 3 of you are talking, no one can hear anything that's being said, and I'm not having it. And I will drop people. I kid you not. This is pointless. Let's have a civil discourse, okay? Right. We're not making any progress on that. I'm going back to Michael. Michael.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. So I think where the conversation left off was that, and I think this is actually where everything comes down, which is that both Cy and Eric have a correspondence view of truth, which is truth corresponds to reality. And
we don't actually, sorry, but we don't. No, I just want to correct you there. Sorry.
Okay, so what is your theory of truth?
Well, the truth is that which conforms to the mind of God. Another thing is, I do believe that truth is what corresponds to reality, but unless you have revelation from God, you can't know what's the right reality.
Then how do you know that God exists?
Because he's revealed it such that we can be certain of it.
And how are you certain?
Has revealed it to me that you don't believe that.
Okay, and I'd really like to get back to that argument, but I realize that DPR doesn't want us to, but I'd like to address that if you don't mind.
Yes, Si, please do, but
okay,
let's keep it brief because I've got more callers.
First, I'd like to quickly say that Aaron originally denied absolute truth and then said he was certain of something, and they just don't match. But the thing
You're
is,
not talking to Aaron though, Sai.
no, I realize that now. I'm talking to Thunderfoot because we're going to get back to his
you're talking
argument.
to Michael at the moment. If you could address that point.
Okay, sorry. What was the point again?
You said that, well, and here's where, again, I think it comes back to circularity. And I think the problem is that fundamentally you don't seem to understand why circularity is bad. That you think that proof of God is that God has told you so.
Oh, vicious circularity is bad. But circularity itself is not bad. Circularity is necessary because if I ask you, Michael, how do you know your reasoning is valid? How can you validate it without using your reasoning?
I gave you an argument earlier, the argument of the non-existence of radical interpreters.
Okay, but your own, Michael, your own reasoning, how do you know it's valid? Your own reasoning, not hypotheticals. How do you know, Michael Payton, that your reasoning is valid?
But we've been over this before, and the question is thrown back at you, and your answer is as unconvincing as any answer that you're likely to get from Michael.
Right, but he was asking about circularity.
Have to go over this point again.
No, he was asking about circularity, and I'm just exposing the fact that everybody has a circular view.
But it's not exposing.
You do as well.
Pardon me?
Mine
So, you have circular reasoning as well.
Yes, we do. We do have virtue.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. I've never denied that, but everybody does. Right. And it seems that only the Christian will acknowledge that, because the unbeliever, when I say, is it circular to say that your reasoning is valid? No atheist will admit that because they realize it's a vicious circle.
So this is old school philosophy. This is Munchausen's trilemma. And there are three, you've got to get it off somewhere. And you can start off by being viciously circular, you can start off with an infinite regress, or you can start off with your basal assumptions. I start off with the assumption that the universe exists, and that I can learn things about it, and things that actually give me a predictive capability are better than those that don't. You said, almost the first thing that you said, I start with the assumption that God exists. Well, why start with that? Why not start with the assumption that the universe exists? Because you have experience of that. And because you care, the mere fact that you're proposing God as an explanatory agent suggests that you are, well, I know you are, you're operating on the same bias that I am, that your brain is a pattern-finding machine. Now, it's functioning in a defective pattern when you say that I start with a presupposition of God, because fundamentally what you're doing is you're putting an unknown to explain another unknown. And that has no predictive capability. That's why what you're employing. Go on.
Let me ask you one quick question, Thunderfoot. Is it possible that your mind? Hang on. Is it possible that your mind is being controlled? Thunderfoot. Is it possible that your mind is being controlled, Thunderfoot?
Yes. Of course.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that's Concordance and Thunderfoot, who both say it's possible their mind is being controlled, so they can't know anything to be true. Who else? I see Alex Botten, one of my old debate opponents, is on now. I'd love to talk to Alex.
The thing is, I'm sorry, before we move off this point, the thing is that we accept, hang on 1 second, Thunder, 1 second, Thunder. We accept that, or Thunder and Concordance have accepted that point.
Right.
But when it's thrown back at you, as I say, I keep on hearing this rather unsatisfactory argument that, oh, well, we know we're right because of this revelation.
Right.
And I don't understand what form this revelation has taken. Explain. Is it a physical revelation? Is it something that came to you in your sleep? I mean, how exactly did this revelation come to you?
God reveals that in many ways, but one of the ways in which he reveals things such that we can know them to be certain is in his word, in the Bible.
Right. Okay, we'll take the next caller. Alex.